Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Most Accurate Podcast. I am your host, Addison Hayes, joined, as always, by one of the most accurate rankers in all of the fantasy community, John Paulsen. John, how are we doing this fine afternoon?
I'm doing all right. You've talked me into doing a mock draft. I don't like mock drafts, but I'm here to do it, and let's do it.
Let's do it. I mean, I don't love mock drafts either. I also don't love rankings, but want the people want this type of content. So we are doing a 12-team half PPR mock draft. We got one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, one tight end. I did do two flex spots, so I just threw an extra flex spot on there just for fun. And then however many bench spots it takes us until we do 12 rounds. So we're doing 12 rounds. We're not drafting the kickers and defenses. It's just going to be all players. I am drafting from the 3 spot. John is drafting from the 9 spot. And then we have a CPU on sleeper, just picking everybody else. But we'll just run down through 12 rounds for each of our drafts, and we'll see what we come up with. So I'm on the clock first with the 1.03. Jamar Chase went at the 101. Bijan Robinson went at the 1.02. Feels pretty typical to your average fantasy football draft start with both those guys in whatever order. So I'm up at the 1.03, and I think normally I do like a wide receiver start, just based on how some of the ADP goes, especially in the early rounds. I like how some of the ADP looks for early third, late fourth, early fifth for some of these running back targets to get my wide receivers early. But I think I'm going to play a little bit differently here. And I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley as personally my RB2. I do have him ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs. I know a lot of people are kind of concerned about him not repeating as the RB1. He doesn't have to be the RB1 in back-to-back years to live up to, an RB2, a 1.03 draft pick. I mean, the situation's still the same as what he was in last year. Still great offense, still great offensive line. Saquon Barkley himself, still great. Not worried about the age. It's just, can his body sustain another large workload that he's going to get? And, that remains to be seen. But if he does, if he plays 15, 16, 17 games once again, I mean, he's going to be spectacular. There's pretty much no way that he's not a top 3 or even just a top 5 fantasy running back. So I'm very happy with him at the 1.03. John, you are up now at the 109. Jefferson, Gibbs, Amon-Ra, CeeDee Lamb, Christian McCaffrey were the picks in between us. So why don't you walk us through what you're doing at the 1.09 here, and then at the turn at the 2.04?
Yeah, I'm starting to see a little bit of Derrick Henry here in half PPR. Is I think normally I've been going receiver in the first round and running back in the second round, but that I've been picking a lot in the first 5 picks this year. So there's some nice dudes, some nice running backs in the late second. There's a big drop off at receiver in the late second, in my opinion. So I've been forcing myself to do a receiver early and then come back with a running back in the second round. But in this situation, I had a pretty good idea that there'd be a good receiver available for me in the second round. And there are 2 that I like quite a bit here, Brian Thomas and Drake London. So I decided to go with Henry there, who I think in half PPR is a step above the rookie John T there. And obviously Achane has a injury, and then there's a little bit of a drop off at running back, I think. So I'm going to go with Brian. I've drafted Drake London in the mid to late second in a couple rounds or a couple drafts recently. So I'm going to go Brian Thomas here.
I like that start a lot. I think I would have also taken Derrick Henry at the 109 and then see what came back. I think I do lean BTJ over Drake London as well, slightly, just because of
they're about the same to me.
Yeah. Just because of the offense. Some motorcycle just drove right past my house. That was really loud. So I don't know if the microphone caught that. Anyway, I am up at the 210. We got a couple quarterbacks that came off the board. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, and Drake London were the other picks between Paulsen at Brian Thomas Jr. at the 204, and then my pick here at the 210. I'm not going to run through the entire draft board for the rest of this mock, but if you are interested and you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple or wherever, and you wanted to see the full draft board, this will be on YouTube as well, on the 4for4 Fantasy Football YouTube channel, if you are interested in viewing this with your eyeballs instead of with your ear balls. So at the 210, I'm pretty surprised to see Brock Bowers still there. Not gonna lie, he is in consideration here. I could go with a double running back start with a Bucky Irving, a Kyron Williams. I do love me some Chase Brown, and I don't feel scared to tell the computer that I'm looking at Chase Brown at the 3.03 here. And I think that that is possible in a lot of fantasy drafts out there to get Chase Brown in the early third. Another reason why I like starting at the beginning, if you have that draft, if you have the option of picking your draft pick, is getting Chase Brown in the early third. Lad McConkey's there too. He's intriguing. I'm not going to get George Kittle if in the fourth if I wait. I might get Trey McBride in the early third if I wanted to, but I think I'm reserving that spot for Chase Brown. This is an interesting build. I'm going to take Brock Bowers. I'm not sure how this is ultimately going to end up looking, but this is going to be how that's the point of a mock draft, is to see how this team ultimately ends up shaking out. Lad, Bucky, Kyron, and James Cook go at the turn. So then I get my guy Chase Brown all in on him as a dark horse top 3 fantasy running back finisher for the year, with the projected volume that he's going to get. Great offense, great touchdown opportunity, great receiving upside. I like Chase Brown a lot and think he's a massive value anywhere in the early third, and I would even consider him in the late second.
Yeah, I think you got a little lucky there that he went after Kyron Williams and James Cook.
Yeah, the ADP certainly doesn't. It doesn't seem like it's flowing that way now anymore. I think he is a late second now.
Yeah, you got a couple donkeys drafting at the 1 and 2 spot, so you're lucky for that reason.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm sitting here with Henry and Thomas at 309, and this is kind of where there's a bit of a drop off at running back and receiver, where I'm just not really excited about anybody here. If the Jets Justin Fields discussion wasn't so dire, I would really like to take Garrett Wilson here, but I'm starting to shy away from him a bit just because it's just looking really dysfunctional right now. Maybe that gets sorted out. Maybe it doesn't. And then
Dysfunctional passing offense with Justin Fields at quarterback.
well, he
Who's ever heard of that?
well, yes, but he did support DJ Moore as a wide receiver 1 when he was in
DJ Moore
Chicago.
supported himself as the.
Oh, okay. I think Justin Fields would take issue with that. Anyway, you know, I want George Kittle at some point. If I let him go, he might come back to me. I don't think Jaden Daniels would make it back to me. So this is one of those situations where you might take a onesie position, and because of the drop off at running back and receiver, and I'm gonna maybe roll the dice and hope that Kittle, see what happens with you where you left Chase Brown, and I'm hoping Kittle makes it back to me in the 4th round. So I'll go Jaden Daniels.
Interesting. We're watching Jalen Hurts.
Denied.
So that was interesting. So you have Daniels that much higher than Jalen Hurts, to where if you wanted to see, you could have taken Kittle, and then if personally, I don't view much of a difference between Daniels and Hurts. So if I wanted a quarterback there and George Kittle, I probably would have taken Kittle, then tried to see if one of Daniels or Hurts would have come back to me. Do you see that big of a difference between Daniels and Hurts?
I see a pretty significant difference, not huge, but significant, if McLaurin is back in the fold, which I think he will be. I just wanted to see if I could get Daniels and Kittle at the turn. It's a mock draft, so I really don't care like what happens. So maybe your strategy there would have been better if I was okay. I probably wouldn't have taken Hurts in the 4th round. I don't know. But now I'm sitting here and I've got a nice little. I'm gonna have to wait on tight end now. So it's either running back or receiver. Kenneth Walker's dinged up. Chuba Hubbard's probably my favorite running back of this batch. And then I'm a little grossed out by the receiver situation now. Marvin Harrison is okay here, but didn't play well last year. McLaurin is not in camp yet, but he'd make a nice stack with Daniels if I was interested in that. Devontae Adams, if I want to bank on the back of Matthew Stafford, would be good. So I'm just going to go with the stack and take McLaurin, since if I'm taking Daniels, I'm betting that McLaurin is going to be back, and then if he's back, then I think he's a good pick here.
Nice. I do like that. I might have picked Devontae Adams and bet on some health for Matthew Stafford because if he is healthy and does just play through it, I mean Adams is probably going to be a really really
Well,
good pick.
you can take him.
I can take him, so I am going to do that as my, my wide receiver one. Devontae Adams made it all the way down to me at the 410. I mean, my other decisions there were DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton. I am a little bit sad that Chuba Hubbard went at the 411, but that's okay because I think I'm going to do it. This is a very interesting build. I don't think I've ever done 3 running backs in the first 5 rounds, but I have to jump on board on this Travion Henderson train because if you don't hop on board now, it's going to leave the station without you, and you're going to be sad that you missed that train.
Well,
He is
Team 8 has 5 running backs through 5 rounds, so they are doing a heavy running back build, aren't
they
they?
are.
They are.
I mean, they could start 4 of them technically in this league, and it is half PPR, so maybe they're just taking the value and then they're going to trade for a wide receiver.
And as a result, running back is looking a little bit thin with the top ADP guy being Isaiah Pacheco. So I think I'm gonna look at the receiver position here and see if there's somebody I want to grab. I think probably top in my projections, and I guess I can quickly check. I'm not. I just want everybody to know I'm not using DraftHero in my projection with my projections loaded in this particular draft. But I think Calvin Ridley here is my top ranked guy. So I'm gonna go all the way down to I might be able to get him next round. I guess I could risk it. There's no running back I really want to roll the dice on. Who's my next?
I mean, Ted McMillan is there. George Pickens is there.
Yeah, I've got those guys ranked. McMillan, 29, Pickens, 35. So I'm a little low on those guys. Zay Flowers, 27. Travis Hunter, 25. Xavier Worthy, 23. Let's see here. I'm going to go Xavier Worthy and bet on a long suspension, and I'm hoping to get Ridley next round.
Flowers, Hawkinson, Pacheco, Tet, Mahomes, Mixon.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and go Ridley here, and I'm definitely going with a running back here. Pollard I could grab. He's going to go. I'm going to go Ridley, and then I'm going to figure out running back later. It will be off of our attrition running back rankings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Calvin Ridley.
I mean, you've got the hero RB build going pretty well. So obviously with Derrick Henry locking down your wide receiver one, you've got Brian Thomas Jr., the stack with McLaurin with your quarterback and Jane Daniels for wide receiver 2. Ridley for some upside, Xavier Worthy for a lot of upside. Like I think it's a very, very good build. If you hit on one of like 3 or 4 potentially drafted running backs that you could get later, I think you're setting yourself up pretty well. You mentioned DraftHero in there. That you usually connect with DraftHero, run through your rankings and everything like that. Could you do a quick promo for what DraftHero actually is? I'm sure the people listening to this on the Most Accurate Podcast on Spotify or iTunes, they probably know what that is, but there might be people on the YouTube side who are just coming to this channel, just coming to this video, don't know a lot about 4for4 and don't know what DraftHero actually is. So can you run through a quick promo for why you love using it?
DraftHero, we've partnered with them for several years now. Ted Caston, who now owns my fantasy league, started DraftHero several years ago, and it syncs. If you get the pro subscription, you can get live sync with your drafts. You have to set up your draft. It will sync with most sites that people would draft at. It sometimes can, it takes a little troubleshooting, but it works pretty well. There's a Chrome extension that you install, and you open up your draft board or your draft room or both, and then it will live sync with your draft to show you all the picks that are being made, and then it'll give you a best top 5 available. It'll give you a recommended pick, and 4for4 projections are automatically loaded if you select that in the settings. So you can pull up my projections and not have to worry about, crossing players off of a paper list or anything like that. So whenever I draft online, I'm typically using the DraftHero app. I am able to text him when I have a problem, but I've heard, so I have really good customer service, but I've heard that their customer service is pretty good. And if you have an issue, you should just go ahead and try to get things set up before your draft, so you have some time to troubleshoot if there is any issue. But I found it really useful. The reason I like it specifically is it shows the relative value for each player in each position, so I know who has the highest VBD. We call it relative value at 444. Others call it VBD, value based drafting. It's nice to know that who has the highest relative value based on the next couple rounds at each position when you're up to pick.
It's been a tool that I have gotten more and more accustomed to this year. After I played around with it slightly last year, but then now I'm getting more used to it, and I'm going to use it for my upcoming draft that I have over Labor Day. So I'm pretty excited now that I understand it a little bit more. There are helpful tutorial videos on the website as well, and I think within Draft Hero itself. So if you sign up for a 4 subscription to get access to that Draft Hero, you can use the promo code YouTube at checkout for 25% off. So now we're moving on to the 6th round. Well, I guess, you took Calvin Ridley at the 604. I am up at the 610. And I am looking at the wide receiver position now after starting with 3 running backs and Brock Bowers. The quarterback position, like Baker, is there. I don't know if I'm going to go for Baker Mayfield just yet. Maybe I'd be curious on him if he comes back to the 7th round. There's not really a whole lot of running backs. I'm not really looking at it. I don't need a tight end. So at the wide receiver position, I'm looking at George Pickens. Rome Odunze could be interesting. I think it's a little early for Jordan Addison and his 3-game suspension. I'm not a huge fan of Waddle or Olave. I think we've actually identified them as do not draft players in previous episodes. So if you missed those, go back and check those out. I think I am going to take George Pickens as the wide receiver 2, maybe the wide receiver 1B in Dallas. I mean, he's certainly a very talented young wide receiver, and with the accuracy of Dak Prescott and the pure volume that they're probably going to have without having much of a run game, George Pickens could be, a top 24 wide receiver that we see a lot of teams or a handful of teams have every single year, have multiple top 24 fantasy wide receivers. So Pickens and Lamb could definitely do that. Now at the 703, Baker Mayfield went off the board. So I'm definitely waiting on a quarterback now because I think they're all basically the same. And I think I'm going to go after Rome Odunze. There's been a lot of reports out of camp that he's just been unstoppable, that the connection with Caleb Williams is there a lot more than Williams' connection with any other wide receiver. I don't need him to produce right away, but if he does break out this year, that would be phenomenal value at the 703 as my wide receiver 3 on this mod draft build.
I am up now at 709. I'm looking at, we got team 8 with 6 running backs. So running back is...
And Evan Ingram. Can't forget about Evan Ingram.
Yeah. Running back is getting a little thin here, and I'm looking at Jalen Warren or Tyrone Tracy as my RB2. What do you think of Warren in Pittsburgh?
His value has definitely been rising a little bit. You and I have had some conversations behind the scenes about Caleb Johnson and his kind of descending value based on the first 2 preseason games. And it seems like Jalen Warren's pretty locked into at least the initial RB1 role for the start of the year. And then as Caleb gets more and more acclimated into NFL speed, into pass protection, into receiving, all stuff that Jalen Warren already knows how to do, and some of that do pretty well. I think Jalen Warren could have a really hot start, and especially for a team like you where you need an RB2 right now, especially at the beginning of the year before maybe some injuries or some bye weeks get going in for some other running backs that you might take a little bit later. I think Jalen Warren could be a very solid pick here for you to give you a baseline of production early on in the season.
I do have him a couple spots ahead of Tracy and half PPR. I don't know which offense is going to be better. Probably Pittsburgh by a little bit.
As a
and I'm looking.
fan, I hope so.
The issue here is I'm looking at, and maybe I've been doing too many industry drafts, which tend to be pretty wide receiver heavy. But Like there are quite a few receivers that I like here, and there's just not very many running backs at this point. So I probably should have um, taken a running back in the 5th or 6th round. Pollard looks to me like he should have been my pick maybe, but I don't like passing on Ridley. So I probably should have gone Ridley in the 5th and then Pollard in the 6th. And then now I'd be able to take best player available here in the 7th round. But I'm going to kind of be forced to take Jaylen Warren, who this is the first time I'm drafting him this year. Which isn't saying, I mean, I'm not one of these guys that's done 100 drafts, but it's kind of a surprising pick for me.
Who was best player available there? Did you? I don't know if you actually said who it
I'd
was,
have
but
to,
if you
I'd have
had
to
the
cross run.
choice.
Yeah. I mean, Jacoby Myers, Jawan Jennings, probably Jawan
Okay.
Jennings. And I don't know if Igbuka is gone.
It doesn't look like it. Sleeper
Oh,
ADP, man. You got
yeah.
to take advantage of some of these platforms.
So projections right now, Jawan Jennings 31, Igbuka 32. Those are the two best receivers. Myers 33, but I'm going to jump on Igbuka here.
Dang it.
Unless there's a running back I want to. No, there isn't. So I'm going to grab my 5th receiver. We can start 4, but I'm going to grab my 5th receiver here. So I've got a rotation at receiver, I guess. And then the hope is that Tucker Kraft makes it back to me at 9-9. And you already have a tight end, so
Uh-oh.
you can't
That's true.
ruin it. I'm gonna go with Buka.
Well, I wanted a Mecca Buka at my pick. So
Did you?
yeah.
So maybe I should just talk about yesterday's change with him.
Yeah.
Doing more research with Godwin, it looks like Godwin's gonna. He's not. They activated him off a pup, but they're saying he's not going to play until October is the vibe, and it might be a little bit later than that. So basically, what I did was I ratcheted down his expected games to 12 out of 17, and then I applied an age filter, which I hadn't done before yet, with like an age adjuster for Mike Evans. We have a stats major who's in college who reached out and wanted to do some work, and we've got him doing an age curve study similar to Ryan Heath, but based on age of player instead of years of experience. Ryan Heath did a nice one for fantasy points, but we'll be publishing that soon. But it basically gives you the average drop off from, like, say, age 30 to 31. So I have a baseline to start with for every player that's getting a year older. It could be any age, 25 to 26 or 32 to 33 or whatever. But so what that did was, and I gave all the rest of that to Igbuka because Jalen McMillan's out half the season. And Igbuka landed at wide receiver 32, and I started looking at the players around him, and I go, based on everything that's going on, this actually makes a whole lot of sense. Mike Evans could fall off a little bit. Chris Godwin could be, get off to a slow start when he gets back. The young, really talented Igbuka has been tearing up camp, and Baker Mayfield loves him, and why not?
I'm up at the 8-10. I did want Emeka Ibuka there. I mean, I could take Chris Godwin if I wanted to, but I'm not. I think this is too early for him. And even though he's not on the pup, the vibes still are not that great. I'm looking for an upside wide receiver shot here, especially in case Matthew Stafford is hurt and that hurts Devontae Adams. Maybe Pickens isn't as great on a new offense, at least not to start. Maybe Rome Odunze doesn't break out. I want to increase my odds of having very good wide receivers with my running back heavy build. I'm looking at Ricky Pearsall. I'm looking at Matthew Golden. Those are two very high upside names. Juwan Jennings is there. Jaden Reed is there. Josh Downs is there. All those guys currently have question mark tags on them on Sleeper at least. I think I'm going to go with Ricky Pearsall. I was on the Juwan Jennings camp at the very beginning of the year, and I still really do like Juwan Jennings. To the point where I'm almost debating taking him here, and then I just have my shot on whoever the wide receiver one is for San Francisco. But I am slightly concerned that I don't know if the injury that he has right now and why he's been missing is truly actually an injury, or if it's a contract related issue that if that were to get resolved, now all of a sudden he's very, very healthy. So I'm not entirely sure. I feel like for security, I could just take Juwan Jennings here and then just have the wide receiver one for San Francisco for the year. Or for my team's upside, and it is a mock draft, so it kind of doesn't really matter, but I'm just kind of talking through this if this was actually the case. For my team's personal upside, I could go for Matthew Golden, another like week one starter for Jordan Love, especially if Jaden Reed's not going to play the first week. And now I'm seeing Romeo Dobbs might get traded or cut. Dontavian Wicks is kind of whatever. I think I'm gonna buy into Matthew Golden for a little bit. Tucker Kraft got nailed right after me. Back to back Packer picks, but yeah, I went with Matthew Golden in the 9-3. So now you're up at the 909, and Juwan Jennings just got sniped right before you too, so you couldn't even take him if you wanted to. So this is an
Yeah,
interesting pick for you. I'm very interested to see who you're going to take.
my Tucker Kraft gamble has blown up in my face. So Tyler Warren is gone as well. So tight end is getting there. Dallas Goedert is out there. I like him. I like his value, but seems a little early for him with pick 145 and sleeper ADP. Receivers getting goofy. And I'm thinnest at running back. So what I think I'm going to do is punt. I do have another tight end. If I just completely punt the position that I like later, even later than Goddard. So I'm just going to completely punt right now the position, and I'm going to go for some upside at running back because I'm really good at receiver right now and pretty thin at running back. So I'm going to go with Jordan Mason here, who is an RB1 A or B in Minnesota. Really good offense. If anything happens to Aaron Jones, he's an RB1, low end RB1, I think, or high end RB2. So going to grab him as my third. And then I'm back on the clock here. Another tight end went. And I'm going to still wait on tight end. There is a receiver here. Okay, so I wanted to comment on your Juwan Jennings thing. I did talk, Matt Kelly on the Mind of Mansion podcast, the 2-hour podcast I did yesterday. I gutted through it, sick. But he did. I posed the question. I was just wondering if this Juwan Jennings calf injury really isn't an injury; it's just a hold in. And he said he's had people that are close to the team that have emailed him or contacted him and told him that's 100% not an issue, his calf, and that it's all contract related. So,
I retract my pick.
We'll see. I think Golden's a good pick though.
But I might take Jennings over Pearsall though.
Well, I mean, this is just Matt Kelly saying that, this is the case. I mean, there's no guarantee it's correct, but he was adamant. But Pearsall's been looking fantastic in camp, and he's healthy now, and he could have like a McConkey type year without too much trouble. So, back to my pick. I'm watching Hard Knocks, and I'm getting quite interested in Keon Coleman. The discussion around him has been super positive. Khalil Shakir is got a high ankle sprain. Seems like Coleman is making that second year leap, perhaps. I'm still a little bit weak at running back, so I could go with somebody like Tank Bigsby. But I think there's another guy later that I want who I think is just as good or could be just as good. So I'm going to go ahead and grab Keon Coleman. And maybe it's a little early, 10th round. I don't think it's too early for him. That works.
No, I don't think so. Especially if you were to be drafting with, I think it's Ian Hartitz, who's like all in on Keon Coleman. Yes, he is. I was trying to find the tweet that he had yesterday. He said, who should be projected as Josh Allen's primary deep ball target? Keon Coleman. Who should be projected as Josh Allen's primary red zone target? Keon Coleman. Who is going outside the top 10 rounds in fantasy leagues at a sub Bills Gabe Davis price tag? Keon Coleman. So Ian Hartitz from Fantasy Life.
I like
very much on
he's a good dude.
On Keon. Yeah. So endorsement from him, I know for sure, even in the 10th round. All right, so 10-10. I got 3 picks left. I still need a quarterback. That's the one position that I've been looking for. And Dak Prescott is still there, and he would match with a stack with my George Pickens pick. So I think I don't like. I like Drake May. I like Jordan Love. I like a lot of these guys at this quarterback spot. That's why I'm very comfortable just continuing to punt it. But I think I'm just going to take Dak Prescott here because of the stack. Just be done with my quarterback position, and then I can just take whoever for my next 2 picks. Um, which here I think I'm going to reach for, not reach, but 11th round. I'm going to go for Austin Eckler. I shouted him out at the end of the attrition running backs video a few days ago that uh, in terms of value for, I mean, he's technically not going to be considered a handcuff if Brian Robinson is moved. He's going to be a legitimate starter. And I said that, basically we're talking about, could Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt break out? Could Chris Rodriguez be an issue early on? All that may just not matter because it just might be Austin Eckler's backfield for a little bit. And I think as my RB4 on this team in the 11th round, that is phenomenal value for me personally. So I'm pretty happy with that one there. So John, you got one last turn here at the 11-12, and then I got one last pick, and we are out of here.
So I'm going to go ahead. I kind of teased it earlier. I've got Braylon Allen ranked 33rd, and it's well ahead of ADP to draft him at this point. But I think his stock's rising, and he's going to have a weekly role. Plus, he's got pretty significant upside if there's a Breece Hall injury as well. You could also Jerome Ford's ADP is even lower, but he's going to have an early season role. If I was trying to just sort of get by in September and try to, hope that I can get a RB2 or 3 off of waivers. But I like Braylon Allen here.
Honestly, I thought you were going to take him last turn over Keon Coleman. And I also thought you were going to maybe take Trey Benson, but then Trey Benson went at the 11-11. But you do need a tight end.
I do, and I just got sniped. So stupid. All right, so I am gonna just go ahead and draft just so I can draft a tight end so I can have a team that I can actually roll out there in week 1. But it's Hunter Henry. I would prefer to wait a round or 2 to grab him, but I think he was the fantasy tight end 12 last year. He's in an ascending offense with an ascending quarterback. Should continue to produce. He's played well with Josh McDaniels as his OC. So I'm going to go ahead and draft him as my tight end. My tight end plans didn't go well. Kittle got sniped. Kraft got sniped in the round that I was going to draft him, and then Goddard got sniped in the round I was going to draft him. But that's why you can fall back to Hunter Henry and get low-end tight end 1 numbers, hopefully.
It's the 12th round, so I don't think drafting Will Shipley here makes sense. But I am the Saquon Barkley manager, so I think had we gone on to rounds 13, 14, or 15, I would have been looking for Will Shipley at that point. So I'm not going to draft him here just because I think it's a few rounds too early. He has a 15th round ADP, and I don't think a lot of people are really in tune with him versus a lot of other players in this range. I'm not worried about tight end because I have Bowers. I already took Dak Prescott, though I'm not against taking another quarterback just to see what happens, especially because Dak gets an opening week against the Eagles. So if I was actually going to have to start this team in week 1, I'm not sure how I feel about Dak Prescott against Philly on opening night, even though I do have the stack with him and Pickens. So I could be persuaded into a better week 1 matchup a la Geno against the Patriots, or I don't know who some of these other people play. Maybe JJ McCarthy or something like that.
Jordan Love against Detroit at home. You have a golden stack too.
That is true. I could go with. Do you think Detroit's secondary would be better this year?
Well, it's probably going to be
issues were injury related, but
yeah, I mean, Detroit typically doesn't have a great defense, but they've been serviceable or manageable lately. I think at home that should be a high scoring game. So I think Love is a better start than probably Dak Prescott.
All right, you know what I'm in because I love myself some Jordan Love as well. So I'll go with Jordan Love as my week 1 starter, and then Dak Prescott's schedule opens up a couple weeks into the season, and I've got the Love golden stack, the Dak Pickens stack. We'll see what happens. So that is 12 rounds of a half PPR uh, mock draft. My team from the 3 spot. I have Saquon, Chase Brown, Travion Henderson, and Austin Eckler as my running backs. Devontae Adams, George Pickens, Roma Dunze, Ricky Pearsall, Matthew Golden at wide receiver. Dak and Jordan Love are my QBs, and Brock Bowers as my tight end in the second round. John, who did you finish out with from the 10 spot?
I started with Derrick Henry, Brian Thomas, Jaden Daniels was kind of in a surprise pick for me there in the third. Probably should have drafted Kittle there. Came back and got the McLaurin stack, praying that he gets a contract and comes to camp. Xavier Worthy in the fifth, Calvin Ridley in the sixth. Love the value of Ridley there. Jalen Warren was kind of a meh pick in the seventh there, but he's my de facto running back 2 right now. Really like Igbuka value in the eighth. Jordan Mason in the ninth. Could also start him, I think, alongside Aaron Jones, even if Aaron Jones is healthy. Really liking the Keon Coleman pick in the 10th, and then Braylon Allen and Hunter Henry to round things out.
So that is the end of today's episode. We appreciate everybody for hanging out with us, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or Apple or anywhere else that you get your podcasts. Please, we would greatly appreciate if you would like and subscribe. That would greatly help us out and continue to grow on all of these platforms, especially on the YouTube side, as we approach 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube. And just one last plug. If you do want to sign up for a subscription to 4for4.com, you get access to all of Paulsen's projections and rankings heading into your draft. If it's coming up here over the next couple of weeks before the season starts, you get access to that DraftHero. Sign up for the pro plan for that as well to get access to all of the tools that DraftHero has to offer. And you can use the promo code YouTube at checkout for 25% off. That also works for the betting and the DFS plans as well. So if you want to be involved in either one of those two, have us help you win some money there. That same promo code YouTube works for all of the plans on 4for4. So that will be it for today's video. We appreciate you guys hanging out and sticking around with us. We will catch you later for another episode of the Most Accurate Podcast. Catch you guys later. Peace.